to how bad of an issue is this. Like I told the audience, ever since we had our first child, I have not gotten good sleep. And I don't know if it's because we did attachment parenting, and boy, did that child get attached. But like I literally could hear every breath that he was breathing. And if I hear anything in the night, my eyes pop open. I do not get really good sleep. It's a struggle. And as I understand it from your research, this is a struggle, not just for me personally, but this is something that is a national issue. And it's something that has a particular resonance with women. Let's start at the beginning. How big of an issue is this? And is it something that really is particular to the challenges that women face as we try to navigate this world?
Good points, man. I'm sorry about your sleep. Your sleep
Yeah,
stuff
it's a
is
16-year
global.
situation.
Yeah, the sleep. So studies show that at some point, anywhere between 24 to 60% of Americans are suffering from some sort of sleep disturbance or sleep disorder. And that's all of them. That's
Wow.
insomnia, that's interrupted sleep. There's medical things like sleep apnea, restless legs, all these things that make it
That's
difficult.
a real thing. Is
It
that
is,
restless? I mean,
yeah.
I shouldn't say that. I remember seeing the commercials, and me and my siblings would look at each other like, now your legs is jiggly. That's a thing.
Yeah, it's good. You know what's funny about things like that is, as physicians, people expect that you have all the answers, right? And so
Yeah.
people are like, "Hey, man, I don't know what's going on. I can't stop moving my legs," right? And then you kind of
Mm,
like, "Yeah, stop drinking coffee," or chill out or something like that, right? But over time, you get enough presentations. Sometimes it takes enough people to say, "Hey, this is what's going on," and then people
huh.
start looking, and then you'll get diagnoses of exclusion, like we don't particularly know the dynamics or the mechanism behind it, so we give it a description. For example, fibromyalgia is another example of something where people are just
Mm,
complaining of constant pain, full body pain, and it's like there's nothing wrong with you. Like we're running all the tests, and they're like, "Dude, I'm in pain." And so slowly
wow.
but surely, as you get more information about it, you start seeing like, "Oh my God, let me not just blow it off," right? So yeah,
Right.
it's a thing. People lie like, "Man, I don't know what's going on. My legs don't. They just won't stop moving."
Well,
Uh,
let me apologize for all the snickering I have done over
that's
the
all right.
years in
I
that
gotta.
commercial. For those of you suffering from that, I
Yeah.
apologize.
I think all our kids, if they slept in the bed with you, you'd be like, "What?" They'll kick you to like kingdom come. So
That
my
would be bad. That
yeah,
would be very bad sleep. That would
yeah.
take bad sleep to worse sleep. But
Listen,
this is something that, as I understand it, it is something that is particularly an issue with women. Do we
yeah,
know
yeah.
why that is?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons. Check this out. I got a spider running across my screen,
Oh,
trying to
that's
get in on
funny.
the action this morning. So yeah, it's particularly important in women because women suffer higher than men with rates
Mm,
of sleep disturbance and insomnia. It's a weird thing when you look into the
wow.
numbers. Compared to genders, women suffer more from sleep disturbances, and there's a couple of reasons that they're postulating that this may be true.
Hmm.
One is because you guys have this wonderful blend of hormones that allows you to do this wonderful thing, which is create life and
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
birth, right? So,
Yep.
fluctuating levels of hormones like estrogen. Estrogen is required for the REM sleep cycle
Oh, I
stage
didn't
of
know
sleep,
that.
and then progesterone, which is required for like making you feel sleepy. So
Huh.
when your hormones fluctuate throughout your menstrual cycle or as a result of menopause, whether you're perimenopause, premenopause, or postmenopausal, all those things, yeah. So all those
That's a
fluctuations,
symptom too? Oh
yeah.
my God.
Don't be scared.
I have a friend who just entered perimenopause, and I feel like she's always saying, "Oh, I woke up in so much pain. This perimenopause is." I'm like, "Girl, what is happening over there?" Like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna
you
have to do
know.
a whole show on menopause at some point, maybe at multiple points. But okay, so this is also
Yeah,
okay.
that is,
Menopause, no
with
sleep.
your
Lord have
blessings
mercy.
come a little bit of, with the great gifts that the Lord has bestowed on you guys,
That's what we're
come some
calling
of
it.
these inconveniences, right? So you'll have greater chances of, suffering sleep disturbances because biologically, these hormones that you have. But
Wow.
then also, uh, you have greater incidences of stressors and anxiety. So you suffer more
Mm,
from societal interactions and anxiety. Women have greater rates
Yeah.
of anxiety than men. And so anxiety is one of the primary causes of people not being able to sleep. So you combine all of
Wow.
those things where it's like, I'm already dealing with life and everything that, work, kids, career, all of that stuff, personal needs.
Mm.
And then, I have my cycle every month, or I might have, and you combine all of that, and you'll see that why women suffer higher rates of insomnia and sleep disturbances than everyone else.
Wow. It's the gift that keeps on giving, this
It is,
womanhood. It's,
unfortunately.
it's, well, let's keep on giving it, because this weekend we're going to be springing forward. I hate daylight savings time in the spring, because it's like we spring forward. I like the fall back. I like what happens in the fall. You get that extra hour, but we're also going to be losing an hour this weekend. So
That's
all of us
crazy.
who are already struggling with bad sleep habits, it's
Mhm.
about to get a little more challenged. Is that
Yeah,
going to be an additional factor for us to consider too?
that is an additional factor. So I don't like the spring forward either. That is bogus. I don't even know why they still do it. I thought they had like passed the law a few years ago. They're like, we're not going to
I
do this
thought so
anymore.
too.
Right?
I
And
thought
just
so
never
too.
took. Like it just like, hey, we're not gonna do this anymore. And then they're like a month later, by the way, that thing we're not gonna do, we're still doing it.
Oh wait, I'm googling right now. There was a bill introduced, and this is okay. So the Hill says there was a bill introduced to make daylight savings time permanent. It was reintroduced, so apparently it may have been introduced in the past. It was not voted into law. And look at
Ah,
this: it's Marco Rubio who introduced the Sunshine Protection Act. So, all right, make
no,
it permanent.
look at that
Wait,
guy.
make it permanent. Wait, I gotta do some research. Let me not quote this as a good bill before I read it. But there, it has not. Whatever law we thought
It
had passed
happened.
has not actually been
It
passed yet.
happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
got daylight savings time, which is another factor in creating sleep disturbances. So you lose
Mm,
that hour, right? Because you're gonna spring forward, fall back, you lose that hour. And so if you're already suffering from shortened sleep cycles or interrupted sleep, you're gonna lose that day. And what that does, and a lot of people will tell you that next day people are dragging. It takes several days for your body
yeah.
to kind of accommodate itself. Sometimes people will take them a week or two, to get in,
Mm,
especially if you are in industries or businesses where you have, shift work disorders, or you might go to night shift, day shift, night, and you go back and forth, right?
right.
So in order to get yourself back on the clock, when that happens, you think it's just an hour, but it actually really affects you, because if you're already on the margins, right, of not getting
Mm,
full sleep, so you're getting shortened sleep, 6 hours, like you're just barely making it, and then you lose an hour, it's going to be rough for you. A lot of things happen for
wow.
you while you sleep. That's the period of time where your body grows, repairs itself. That's where your hormones are released, testosterone, estrogen, all this stuff, all the repairing is being done during that
Hmm.
time. And so once that is shortened, none of your systems are operating at full functional capability. And then you
Can we
slowly
can we
start thriving.
can we pause right there for a second? Because I don't think I really had an appreciation for what value there is in sleep until I had heard someone talk about this very thing. It's not just time for you to close your eyes and rest because you're tired. Your body is very actively engaged with its own self healing process during that sleep time. Is that a correct
Absolutely.
interpretation of that data?
Correct. Correct.
So, Dr. Damas, those people who say, I'll sleep when I'm dead, I got to hustle hard, I no time for sleep, what are they doing to their bodies as a result of that sort of
So
practice?
they're basically aging themselves quickly. So first thing they do, they're aging themselves, right?
Wow.
So, that is, like you just said, it's the period of repair. So if your body doesn't have a chance to repair, just like anything else, right, it's going to start breaking
Mm,
down because you haven't done the necessary maintenance, which is what's supposed to happen every night. That whole sleep when you die, hustle thing is like a mentality that's grown out of struggle and hardship that people have,
mm,
held on to, because that was the only path for them, right? But that
yeah.
doesn't mean that is the path that should be. It should be that path. Like, life should
Right.
be hard. Who told you that?
Right.
Like, who told you people that? Right? Like, oh man, life should be the hardest thing that you ever do. Like, where did you get that idea for? Life should be good.
Right.
I choose the other option where it's like, I want to have a good time while I'm here. I don't want to be.
Yes.
And you know what's funny? When you hear those people with that mentality, hustle, grind, they never sound happy. That is not an enticing sales pitch.
At
Come hang
all.
out with me. We're gonna ride on a no, bro. Like, I'm good.
I
I've
will
done
not be
that.
meeting you at the. I will not
I've
be
done
meeting you
that.
at 4 a.m.
Right?
No,
Sleep
sir,
when
we're
you
not meeting
die.
then.
You're gonna get that sleep earlier if you're gonna get to that point earlier if you do that stuff.
Mm,
It creates release of stress hormones, things like cortisol, which over time, break down your body as opposed to build
yeah.
you up. So this whole idea of not getting sleep is actually very, very dumb. I would participate in residency. It is. In residency, I participated in the Harvard sleep study, which was like, we want to see what happens to these residents as a result of your call schedules and your work schedules.
Mm.
And like, I know I had an accident. I had a needle stick because of sleep deprivation. Like, I stuck myself with a
Wow.
needle with a patient we didn't know was HIV positive or not. So I had to go through that whole protocol just because I was delirious. Like, I was delirious from lack of
Wow.
sleep. They showed that, just 2 days of poor sleep, not complete lack of sleep, but poor sleep is the equivalent. If you get behind the wheel, which happened to me in residency already, I had a car accident one time, like a fender bender, is the equivalent of having like 3 drinks. Like,
Oh,
you're like that
snap.
discombobulated, right? So your brain is not even
Ooh, you
working
better not
properly.
tell the legal community because lawyers, we don't get
Oh,
sleep. So all my bad sleep was compounded by being a lawyer who like never got to have sleep.
that's
Wow. So
yeah,
your cognitive abilities are
decline.
lessened. Your ability to process information
Yeah,
and act on it accurately is also
yeah.
impaired. Dr. Damas, unlike previous episodes where you've come on and people have waited to the last 3 minutes of the segment before they fill up the phone lines, we actually have some calls. So let's get one of them on the line if you can. Let's go to Valerie in Georgia, first time caller.
Mama made it.
I was wondering, doctor, good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Like, I can fall asleep, but how do you stay asleep?
Ooh, very good, very
Yeah.
good, very good. So there's a couple of things that are involved in that action, right? So sometimes people can have these sleep interruptions, and there can be a number of reasons for that. You can have like a busy, noisy partner, temperature, bedding, body aches, pains, and then sometimes you've actually become into a cycle where your body is trained to have interruptions in sleep, right? Like, you've
Hmm.
subconsciously trained yourself. If you've been taking care of a child, for example, every little sound, you're like, hey, I'm very acute. So you never allow yourself to get in deep sleep. So one of the things that we like to do is talk to people about sleep hygiene, which is the
Oh.
technique and methods behind having a good night's sleep, right? So it's not just hey, go to sleep at 10 o'clock, I'm gonna jump in bed, but everything that you do prior to that, right? And then also, if you need supplements or medications, obviously, I'm not a big fan of pharmaceuticals or those kind of things. So I prefer natural things. When you look at cannabinoids or CBD, there's different ways to get into your body. If you smoke it or vape it, it's going to put you to sleep, but it's going to not keep you asleep because your body metabolizes that very quickly. Within about two
Mm.
hours, it's going to be out of you, right? So, oh man, I went to sleep and I woke up because I smoked something, right? So we usually recommend for people who have problems staying asleep. They don't have problems going to sleep, but staying asleep, that you take an oral formulation of CBD or cannabis products because they stay in your body much longer as a result of the
Huh.
way that your body has to metabolize it and conjugate it to get into your bloodstream. So gummies, pills, oils, those things like that, you take those and those will keep you asleep. As a matter of fact, we got a little special for you guys this week. It's a sleep pack of gummies. You take 2 of those, and it'll put you to sleep. So we have a little link we're going to share with you guys. It's like a 10 pack of gummy bears. You take 2 gummies a night, and it'll put you to sleep. So
Now, question for you. Well, actually, let's go back to our caller really quickly before I steal all the time to myself. I don't want to be selfish. Valerie, does something like that make sense for what you're experiencing?
It does make sense, but I'm just wondering, does it make you, it might put you to sleep, but does it make you stay asleep? Do you have to take it every
Oh.
time you wake up in the middle of the night, or is it something that's going to stay in your system and allow you to sleep until you wake up?
Yeah, so see, Valerie and I have some things in common.
So
I
I didn't
getting to
hear.
sleep ain't the problem. She said, is it going to make you? Are you going to wake up in the middle of the night? Are you? Is it going to like
No,
have that staying power? I think
yeah,
she's
that's the
referring to
purpose.
that
So
point.
that's why you would take the oral formulations of CBD or cannabis so that you will stay asleep. Anything that you
Right.
smoke or inhale is going to get out of your body. So you want capsules, things that you eat, things that you drink, they're going to stay and keep you asleep. And they'll do a good job at it without giving you that hangover that you can get from some of the, pharmaceutical things, Salmonex or, Xanax or benzodiazepines that people, or even, like some of the sleep medications, which are the worst. Like those are the worst, most bubonic like drugs, give you lucid
Wow.
dreams, nightmares, sleep paralysis. So a lot of these medications that are prescribed for sleep have all these horrible side effects: sleepwalking, sleep eating, um, people who
Oh my
actually sleep
gosh.
but don't get restful sleep because their brains don't actually go into the sleep cycles. They're caught in outside of the sleep cycle. So you don't get that deep, dreaming. It's just bad stuff. We have not
Mm.
seen any studies in cannabis and CBD where people have reported having these horrible experiences with sleep. It's a much better quality of sleep. That's what the consumers have reported.
So, Valerie, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate you. Dr. Damas, I want to build on her question a little bit before we take Rob's call. Will it keep you drowsy in the morning?
Very
Taking
good.
CBD as a sleeping aid, will it keep you drowsy in the morning?
No, so very good question. CBD and cannabis have very short half-lives. Well, not short half-lives, but everything has a half-life. What's meant by half-life means the amount of time in your body that it takes to get rid of half of it, right? So
Hmm.
let's say you consume 10 milligrams of something, and it's got like a half-life, a processing life of 10 hours. So that means 10 hours later, half of that is gone, right? So it's
Hmm.
5 milligrams is left, right? Well, 5 milligrams is less than the therapeutic amount of that, right? So
Got it.
when you take the therapeutic amount and your body metabolizes it, when you wake up in the morning, half of it is gone or even more, you won't feel anything. So usually we say for CBD products, anywhere above 40 milligrams, you're entering. So one of the things people should know, when you use CBD to go to sleep, you're using a side effect of CBD. What that means is that
Mm.
too much CBD makes you sleepy. So we're using a side effect as a treatment, right? So we're going to use a large dose
Wow.
of this to make you sleepy. So once you get to around 40 milligrams, depending on how your body, usually say 40 milligrams is a minimum, you'll start feeling a little drowsy or sleepy, right? Then you go above that. Usually most of our patients are somewhere between 40 to 100 milligrams. I like to start people off at 50, 60 milligrams to go to sleep before, an hour before they go to sleep. And in the morning,
Mm.
that means half of that is gone, 30 milligrams, and 30 milligrams is really below the somnolence threshold. You're chill, you're going to wake up feeling fresh, not groggy, muscles are going to be activated. You're not going to be dragging yourself around. So it's a great rest, right? And the other
That's
thing
good.
too, it does not put you at risk for some of the harms, again, as the pharmaceuticals, which are like overdosing, respiratory depression. So let's say you're a person
Yeah.
who has a sleep disturbance. Not only do you have insomnia or interrupted sleep, but let's say you have sleep apnea on top of that, right?
Wow.
You don't want to
Well,
take
for people who
that.
don't know what sleep apnea is, what is that?
So sleep apnea is a physiological condition where you either have really hard time breathing at night or you actually stop breathing. And sometimes it
Wow.
requires a machine that forces air down your throat to keep your airway open. So sleep apnea can cause hypertension. It can
Mm.
cause you know, metabolic disturbances. It can make it difficult for you to control your diabetes. It can impact like your physical activity levels, increase your chances of obesity, heart disease. It's like a horrible thing,
Wow.
right? And it's horrible intimate. Like if you have a partner, you're lying in the bed and that person's got a CPAP or a BiPAP, which is the machines that you use to treat severe sleep apnea. They've got to sleep next to that thing. and the machines. Some people forget.
Oh, I went on a trip once, and you know how you share the hotel room, and so I've got my space, and my roommate, she had hers, but like she had one of those machines. When I tell you, it was loud, and I was like, this can't work. And from then on, I was like, I need my own room. Like, I will never again do another trip where I am sharing a space with somebody. I don't care about saving money. Nope, I'm gonna invest in my own room. I can't do it. I think we have time. We have Rob on the line, who I also want to get on before we go to commercial break. Dr. Damas, are we keeping you over, or are you out at 11?
I'm always here, flower to the people. This is my. I'm going to tell you a funny story when we get.
Well, hold the story. Hold the whole story. I want to get Rob's question, because if we can't answer a question on this segment, I want to make sure we do it on the after commercial break. But I definitely want to hear the story, just so don't forget it. Okay, hold on. Rob, let's bring you on. First time caller.
Mama made it.
Hey, Rob.
Thank you. I think this is more of a comment. I think the doctor may know, but there's people that underestimate the quality of the necessity of sleep. There was a study, but 10 years or so ago in Italy, of a family that wasn't getting enough sleep. They just couldn't get enough sleep, and they either went insane or died away.
Jesus, Lord, may sleep be a friend. Jesus be a pillow and a comforting blanket. Rob,
with the morbid.
He was like, this is what really hustle hard and no sleep till you die will do. Rob, thank you for that. Like I said, Jesus be a comfortable blanket and a warm pillow. Dr. Damas, does that feel in line with your understanding of lack of sleep?
So I think with Rob, with the insanity part, sleep deprivation is actually a technique that's used to torture people. Right. So they will put you in a situation where you never get sleep. And at some point, you can actually become delirious. All right. Wow. We've seen kids when they're like, they're all over the place. Right. So so that is something. It affects your cognition. New moms have that. Sometimes you hear people talk about mom brain. Right.
It is real.
Yeah. Mom brain is comes as a recombination of things. Your hormones are like, all over the place. And now you have this life that is completely dependent upon you. Sometimes the food is coming out of you. Like literally that life is eating, from you. And so the sleep deprivation makes it really difficult for you to kind of like remember basic things, really executive order thinking goes away or disappears. Short-term memory suffers a lot. So that's why you have like, man, where's that thing I just was talking about? I can't bring it back to life. So it makes it really difficult to go through mundane everyday tasks, because those are usually short-term memory things, and you wind up in a cycle and a circle of incomplete things. So that's how some people wind up in depressed mood. They feel anxious because they're like, I don't have any control over my life and my environment. I'm always like behind, or I feel like I'm missing something, which is really deleterious to your mental health. So sleep, the sleep disruptions can go that far and affect your mental health and get you in positions that you're really unhappy.
Well, Rob, thank you for that. We appreciate it. We're going to get ready to head into a commercial break. And I will confess, well, not confess, I will just acknowledge that I have spoken with a number of experts, and I have, because, we have medical cannabis in New York. Shout out to the Cannabis NYC. Shout out to Dashida Dawson, our Flower to the People, our original Flower to the People contributor. But one of the things that they had suggested was that I try CBD, and I will tell my experience with it on the other side of the break, because I'll save it. We'll leave it as a tease. Was it helpful for me? Did I go insane? I don't know, Dr. Damas. I don't know if you want to take a bet on it, but I have personal experience with the difference between trying to get sleep just on my own and with having CBD prescribed as a sleep aid. And we'll talk about my experience on the other side of the break. But there's a lot to this, folks, and your life quality changes so drastically depending on how much sleep you get or do not get. Head into commercial break. More with Dr. Damas and Flower to the People. Be right back.
Sicker than your average. Papa twist cabbage off instinct.
Welcome back. You are listening to Larry Daniel Favors on SiriusXM's Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. We're talking about sleep deprivation and the benefits that CBD can provide for those of us who are going through it. And I've had basically a 16-year battle with sleep deprivation, 16 years and 9 months if you count the pregnancy. So it's been an issue for me. And, you know, I love maturing. They're the most amazing things I've ever been a part of ever in my life. But man, have they ruined a sister's sleep. So Dr. Damas, I was fortunate enough to be in a state where we had medical cannabis, and we have the ability to resolve some of these issues using cannabis as a support. And I was able to begin using CBD as a part of my sleep regimen. Brother, when I tell you, at the first night, the very first time that I was like, all right, we're going to try it. It's going to work it out. I can't be doing flower to the people in the I don't, know nothing about flower to the people. The very first night, when I tell you, I slept so soundly. The next morning when I woke up, I was like, what in the world is this? This is amazing. I feel like a new person. It was absolutely amazing. I think not because sleep was just so great, but because in comparison to the many, many, many nights of sleep I'd had before where I did not wake up with that feeling, it was immediately recognizable. I mean, immediately it made a difference in my mood. I felt like my thoughts were a lot more clear. I wasn't dragging. I didn't have the 10 a.m. need for coffee. Well, the 6 a.m. need for coffee, the 10 a.m. need for coffee, and a 2 p.m. afternoon pick me up, walk to Starbucks. Like I didn't have that. And it was all because I got finally a good night's sleep. And I know from talking to other people, I'm not the only one who's experienced that. And I'm wondering if you have seen that with your patients, and if you think that perhaps if more of us were a bit more open to the benefits of CBD, we too might feel like the world is new. We might resolve violence in the community if we was all getting enough sleep.
Right? Chill. What the problem, what they need is sleep. It's not, we don't need any more police.
Sleep in an after school program.
So real talk, that's actually how I got involved in this industry. So I had really, so this was during medical school early on. And I had just first started having some of the football player CTE-like stuff. So anxiety, headaches, really bad headaches, and insomnia. The insomnia was driving me crazy because I had to be in the hospital, it was medical school. You had to do it. It was a lot. And I had started taking like Benadryl. Well, I had taken them all. I had settled in on Benadryl, right? But I had tried
after trial and error.
Yeah, right. Which sucked, which never worked for me. And then my doctor, I went to see my doctor because the Benadryl wasn't working. Like I just couldn't handle that. And they gave me Xanax, which is a benzodiazepine, which is along the lines of drugs like Ativan, people may have heard of. And that was horrible. It made me a zombie. And so I was kind of like you. I was a non-believer. And then, one day I just gave in and was like, man, I need to get some sleep. Like, I cannot do this. I literally can't do this. Smoked some weed, slept for 12 hours. I was like, what? This I can't really like, I didn't believe it. I actually thought it was a coincidence. I'm not even lying to you. I was like, nah, that was a coincidence. Did it again and slept for 10 hours. And I had been sleep deprived for like you said, for a long time.
Right.
And so I was like, man, when I worked out the day, like birds were chirping. I was like, what?
And you could hear each bird. You could distinguish between the birds. Like, oh, that's a blue jay.
I was seeing things in color, like it had been black and white for a long time. I was like, wait a minute, this stuff is like in Technicolor. What is going on? And so that's what really got me. Like the sleep was the first thing that I was like, this works better than anything that I've tried or been prescribed. Like this is the thing. And so a lot of my patients, that's what got me started. So a lot of my patients, the primary complaints, pain, anxiety, and sleep. Like those are the big three things, and they're all interconnected, right? So if you're in pain, you can't sleep. Anxiety disrupts your sleep. And of course, the sleep disturbances can be organic within themselves. So a lot of people come through and they're like, bro, I just need something to sleep. And so we do get really good results. We get good results from people who use some THC products, which they can in the state of Florida. We get a lot of people who are like, I want CBD products. I know I can travel wherever in the country because CBD is legal federally. So you can fly.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You can fly, you can cross borders, which is CBD. The gummies, for example, the ones that we have on sale for today, the sleep pack, those don't have any THC in it whatsoever. So they're just
Mm.
CBD and the other cannabinoids. So that means over time, if you have like a federal job or some job that's going to test you for THC, CBD products, like they're called broad spectrum products or isolates that have no THC, you'll never test positive. Because, there's still some places
Wow.
where they'll test you for whatever reason. And we have
Yeah.
patients and customers who have those concerns. And so we'll tell them, like, you can take these CBD products here and get the benefits that you're looking for without some of the risks or, putting yourself, your career, your job in danger. So the gummies are
That's
why
good.
we have that. That's specifically why we have that product choice for people in that situation,
Mm. Well, Dr. Damas, it's happening again. The people can sense our segment is almost over. And so here
Well,
come
they're
the flood
lighting
of
us up.
calls. Here they come. All right, let's start with Chris in California, a first-time caller who's got 30 seconds to make your pitch because we got to close out.
Hi,
Hey, Chris.
Doc. My name is Chris from California, and I was wondering. My question is, do you think the body can be conditioned to operate on minimal sleep? Because I work a job and I suffer from sleep apnea, but I probably sleep about 4 hours a day, and that sleep is broken up. But yet, I still seem to operate at high energy level on a normal daily basis.
So, Doc, thank you for your question, Chris. We've seen folks who say, I only need 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I'm good. Like,
So
is that possible? Well,
so
obviously it's possible, but what
it's
do you say
possible,
about
right?
that?
So with everything, there are outliers, right? Like the old bell curve, right? And the majority of people will be within a certain parameters, and then you have some people who are able to operate on the extremes or the fringes, right? So that is possible. But what's most likely is that your baseline and your performance baseline has adjusted itself down to a level where you think that you're operating at high efficiency, but it's actually not. But it's like, I'm able to do the things that I need to do at this level, which is what you see. But like I said, when you take exams and you do the studies on it, like the Harvard sleep study test and a whole other lot of, they show, you put somebody behind the wheel who's been sleep deprived, they will have more accidents. You ask somebody to take an exam, who's been sleep deprived, they're going to perform worse. You ask somebody to do simple memorization tasks who are sleep deprived, they're going to perform worse. You ask somebody how they feel in terms of their mood, their happiness, depression, anxiety, they're going to tell you, I don't feel good. So the majority of people will fall into the bulk of it and say, when I'm sleep deprived, I operate less efficiently. Now, if you get to a point where you tolerate that, good for you, but it's not optimal because it does increase your blood pressure. It does increase stress hormones, cortisol, does make you more anxious. You do have a release of catecholamines like adrenaline and things like that to keep you going. Sometimes people rely on large amounts of stimulants, caffeine. Other people, it's cocaine. Real talk, like this is why I live in Miami. So, like
I'm
all
sure you've
these
seen
things,
all of it.
the Red Bulls, the 5-hour energy drinks and all that stuff, people become dependent upon that and need more and more of that. And then it becomes a hard to break cycle.
Yeah. And I guess, the idea is that if you're doing okay at 4 or 5 hours of sleep, how much better could you be doing at 8? Right? How much better could you be doing if those hours of sleep were not interrupted? So these are just questions, and a lot of us have trained ourselves to we gonna get by, like whatever it is, we can manage it, we gonna handle it.
You got to do it, right?
Right. But that question about baseline versus optimal, I think that's important. Like, yes, we can operate at a baseline, but is that as good as it can be? Maybe. Yeah. I don't know that it is. But I think that's a question everyone has to ask them for themselves. We have one last caller that we're going to get to be able to take. Y'all be cracking me up. Every week I say, don't wait till the last minute. And they can sense it. I didn't even say we're almost done with this segment. They can just sense it.
Got him.
Got him. All right, let's go to Kurt in South Carolina.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Hey, welcome to the show. What would you like to say this morning?
Thank you. I just had a quick question. I got a friend who experienced some depression and anxiety, and they are currently on the prescription lorazepam to be taken at night because when they don't take it, then they don't sleep, and the lack of sleep exacerbates the conditions that are there. Would taking CBD have an adverse reaction with taking that medicine?
Good call. I like it. He's going to bring us home strong. All right. Clorazepam is a benzodiazepine medication. It's along the same lines as I mentioned before, Ativan and Xanax. They work on a receptor in your brain called GABA, G-A-B-A, which is an inhibitory receptor. You guys got me going full nerd at the end of this right here, right? Full medical doctor, right? And what happens is that when you activate those receptors, it brings you down. So that's why you use those for anxiety, and you could also use them for sleep, right? So they'll bring you down. The bad thing about them is that they're very habit forming, so you can get addicted to them, right? You can also overdose with them, and they interact with a lot of other sedatives. So when you add cannabis to that, if you were to add CBD to clorazepam or any other benzodiazepine, it would increase your sleepiness. So it would just make you more sleepy. So if you just add in 2 sedatives, the one good thing about the CBD is that it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, so it doesn't put you at risk for overdose, right? So it's not like mixing alcohol and a benzodiazepine, which will put you at risk for respiratory depression or shut down your nervous system and you die, right? So you can do that, but you shouldn't operate like heavy machinery or anything like that. A lot of people, in order to stop those things, if you've been taking it for a long time, you should slowly wean yourself off of those to avoid any adverse or rebound effects. We get people, myself included, off of those things using CBD because you can get the sleep. It hits the same receptors. It's safer. It's not habit forming. It won't cause you to be drowsy, delirious, or less attentive. This is a much safer option using the same mechanism.
That's great. That's really great. So hopefully that was able to give you some insight that you can share with your friend. Dr. Damas, we have reached the end of our segment today, despite the fact that here come the calls. Sorry, guys, we got to move on. We're going to be switching gears on the other side of the break. But how do people get access to the sleep pack? Should they go to your website? Should they call your office? And why don't you give us those details so people can contact you for that and other things?
Get you ready for daylight savings. You can go to drdamas.com, DRDAMAS. It's DRDAMAS.com, and it'll be on there. There's also a bunch of content about sleep and previous shows that we've been on there. And you can also follow me, social media, Dr. Damas, DOCTOR Damas. If you're on Twitter, the Urban View account has tweeted out links to the website.
That's right. Yep.
And you could always call the office, which is 833-362-3262, 833-362-3262. And if you're purchasing anything outside of the sleep packs, make sure you use your code Lurie. Put some respect on her name. Spell it properly.
Spell it right.
Lurie. Before she pull out the machete. The spell it properly, you'll get a discount.
You don't know nothing about my machetes. Listen, I'm a child of a daughter of the Caribbean. You don't know nothing about that. No, actually you do. No, you're from Haiti. No, you know. You know for real.
Yeah, I know. That's a multi-purpose tool for me. Gardening, cooking, self-defense.
That's right.
Everything, alarm system, whatever.
Keep it sharp and close. Dr. Damas, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Y'all, use the code Lurie, Lurie, and you will experience a bit more of what Dr. Damas and his team have to offer. Thank you for being with us today. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to some more good sleep. All right, folks, we are heading into a commercial break. On the other side of it, we're going to be switching gears, and we're going into our Ujamaa component.